Hi, my name is Phil Noble, and I am founder of World Class Scholars. And this is our first podcast, and I'm very excited that you have joined us. I want to tell you just a little bit about what we do and what we're going to do with this podcast, and then I am going to bring in Dr. AJ Shukla, who is the president of World Class Scholars Foundation and actually runs this thing. Um, so, welcome. We're excited that you're here. World Class Scholars is a really interesting idea. We connect schools around the world in real time online exchange. That's what we do. Like LinkedIn connects two people for jobs, or Match.com or Tinder connect people for romance. We connect teachers around the world for learning. And we believe that connecting classrooms is the way to have a fundamental impact in this world. When kids and people get to know they're sort of, we're all different and we're all the same, then all of a sudden their world changes, their worldview, and they get to know people and their culture and their ideas, even though they look different. They're around the world. So it's a brave new world out there, and World Class Scholars, I think, has a very important role to play in bringing together teachers in classrooms. And over the course of weeks and months to come, we want to use this podcast to bring together innovative thought leaders, people who are involved with global education. We'll bring in some of the kids and teachers who are making this work, our sponsors who are really making all this possible, folks like Microsoft. So that's the big idea here, and we're excited that you've joined us and going to be a part of it. And I want to, with that, introduce the president of World Class Scholars, Dr. A.J. Shukla. And he has a long and distinguished career in education and business and technology. And so I just wanted to really begin with a basic question. AJ, why are you doing this?
It's a great question because it's open-ended and it makes me think uh, at a very fundamental level. Why we are doing this is quite simply that the world of education has, for the longest time, been quite similar to what a prison looks like or feels like. You wear a uniform, you have a certain beat, you get into the school at a certain time. Each component of the lessons is, depending on which part of the world you are, 45 minutes to 55 minutes. You go through the same routine over and over again. And if you were to look at the layout and architecture of a prison and a school, at a very fundamental level, they are not very different, which I think obviously was uh, conceived at the time of the industrial era, where imparting certain standardized skills through a certain regimented education was the order of the day, because that's what the world of work wanted or needed. But things have changed very rapidly. Education is following what I call the Moore's Law, which is every 18 months, the pace of change in terms of the processes, the technology, and the uh, requirement for teachers to upgrade and refresh their pedagogy, it doubles in terms of its requirement and impact every 18 months. So we are in that cusp of time where we are going through a Moore's law by way of change in education. And that's why I feel what World Class Scholars offers is really helping teachers, schools, and students cope with this rate of change caused by technology and many other factors in the world of education, and moving from a closed circuit, uh, prison-like environment to a more open architecture where classrooms across the world can connect with each other, learn from each other, and share and become more responsible global citizens. That's why I'm here, because it has the potential to make a revolutionary impact in the world of education, and I want to be a part of it.
You know, you and I have been, how long have we been working together on this thing? 3 years? 2 years?
3 years,
3 years?
yeah.
Yeah, a long time. And that's the first time I've ever heard you use that prison analogy. I mean, I think it's true. I think it's very, very true. And you know, I think the fundamental context of everything we're doing is that if you look around the world, global education is broken. I mean, it's just not working most places. Sure, there are places where there's good education, and there's some islands in the middle of this sea of bad education. But I'm in the U.S. and I saw a statistic the other day that I thought just summed it all up, which was over the last 10 years, the amount of money spent in the United States on education has gone up 30%, and educational attainment has dropped almost 40%. We're spending all this money, we're doing all this stuff, and we're not getting anything for it. And, you know, that's just one little microcosm of the U.S. And, you know, and COVID, I think, did really accelerated the world's understanding that education was broken because, you know, virtually every kid in the world didn't go to school for, you know, at least 1 year. And there was obviously a lot of online education, but that also showed the online education was just the kid to the teacher. There was almost nothing of using that technology to reach out, and that's what surprised me. I thought it would the reaching out would explode during COVID, but it seemed to me that it just had the exact opposite impact of as one teacher says to me, I can't get online. Don't talk to me about the rest of the world. Did that surprise you, the COVID impact?
Actually, it didn't surprise me, and I'll tell you why. That while during COVID, all instruction and perhaps learning and assessment moved predominantly to online across the world, and everybody sort of thought that this is that aha moment where online learning will become the order of the day. It did, because that was what was needed. However, I think what was lost on all the people who were participating in this sort of digital migration was a very simple epithet, which is you can't solve the problems of the present and the future using the tricks that worked for you in the past.
Yeah.
You can't make an old dog learn new tricks. So let me sort of elaborate what I mean by that.
And there are a lot of old dogs in education around the world.
Indeed, like you two, you both of us.
Yeah, I guess we are. But we did learn some new tricks. But anyway, go ahead.
So what I mean by, this old trick, new trick sort of analogy is that what most education technology platforms or content providers were doing during COVID was literally take what was happening in the offline world, which is face-to-face instruction, and somehow convert it digitally and expect that the same results will be delivered is simply not possible. When you move to uh, an online and a digital education environment, instead of restricting and constricting what is to be taught and in what form, shape, and manner, how the data will be collected, uh, that is not the right approach. This is the time where you need to give the tools in the hands of the educators and have them unleash their creativity in the hands of the teachers, that is. That the teachers must unleash their creativity using the technology tools and not be told that, first minute of the lesson you do this, fifth minute of the lesson you do this, eighth minute of the lesson you do this. This
Right.
is the platform you're going to use for assessment. This is how you're going to check the learning attainment through formative assessments. So we were prescriptive in our approach and not liberal in our approach. And that's where things went wrong. In a typical classroom environment, teacher is in charge and they decide depending on the topic, the learning strategy they want to use, how they want to have differentiated learning for weak learners versus strong learners, peer learning, student led lessons. There is a lot of creativity which goes on in the offline environment in terms of teaching, learning, and assessment. COVID and the resultant digital adoptions were prescriptive. They did not allow enough creativity for teachers. And that's where world class scholars is different. We give the tools in the hands of the teachers. We give them the entire suite of Microsoft Office 365 tools, the associated applications for free. We give them a certain guidance in terms of how to do cross border collaboration by way of a teacher handbook, a workflow, lesson plan, term plan, but we don't prescribe it. We don't even tell them what topics to choose. It's for the teachers to decide what is best for their students. And that's why we are different. That we give the power of the tools in the hands of the educators and we give them unlimited freedom in terms of how they want to teach, what they want to teach, and how they want to use the tools. So that's what I think makes us different.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also one of the challenges that we face is on the one hand we've got this sort of ocean of content from Microsoft and IBM and all these other people, and we've got it, and then we've got all these teachers out here who say, yeah, I want to connect with the world and I want to take advantage of this content. We've got to figure out sort of here's a starter menu, if you will. Here's how you can get started into this process. And I think, I mean, that's on us at World Class Scholars to figure out how to most effectively do that, and then working with teachers to do it. One of the things that I've got high hopes for is this teacher room. In varying cultures, it's called varying things, but in every culture, there's a place where the teachers go to hang out together. Maybe it's just sitting under a tree smoking a cigarette together, or something, or a formal room with sofas but there is a teacher's room, and I think to be successful and to expand like we want to, we've got to find a way to make that teacher's room a really vital, vibrant place where teachers communicate and talk about what they're doing and what they're learning and what happened with their kids. And, my kid, did you believe what this idiot did last week? He did. That, and what's your thinking about how we can establish and use that sort of teacher room to enhance and enrich the teacher experience and the teacher resource for them to learn and to be better teachers?
First
How
of
do we do
all,
that?
I must say that look, on the World Class Scholars platform, we have a concept of Teachers Lounge where teachers can come and simply exchange freewheeling and self moderated sort of uh, place, a safe place where they can talk to each other, share, and learn from each other. And it need not always be about teaching, it can be about anything else. So that functionality certainly we have provided for. Turning to, how can we make sure that this is really a vibrant place and high participation? What are teachers really looking for? I mean, educators are very busy. They are running from one lesson, one class to another. And unless they find something valuable and useful, this is just another idea which, where they have to carve their time. To bring them to this community and what teachers value most, in my opinion, and, I'm happy if some of our listeners can also provide us ideas, is teachers care a lot about peer learning. They are absolutely shameless about getting good ideas
Oh,
that
yeah.
they can use in the classroom uh, if it comes from another teacher. And I think that is something that we need to promote that and recognize. The second thing teachers are looking for is recognition. That it is one of the most underappreciated professions in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Here is a body of people who are influencing the minds, bodies, and souls of the next generation. And they are so undervalued that they are underpaid and under recognized in society. And that's something we want to change as world class scholars. That the more uh, teachers participate in terms of selfless peer learning. We want to recognize them through a certain badging scheme that we will soon implement on our platform. Have real rewards as well as recognition for them by way of free travel or subscription to uh, highly valued professional development resources, sponsorship to teacher and educator seminars. So that's really what we want to do, and that's certainly in our plan that we engage teachers in peer-to-peer learning through what we call Teachers Lounge. We can always rename it. In my culture, it's called the staff room. In others, it's called teacher room. But we know what we are talking about.
One of the things uh, we're going to have to learn how to do. Obviously, we're going to have to learn how to manage a podcast to make it useful. I mean, I'm sure that right now there's probably only a handful of people who are going to stumble on this one, and and we've got to figure out a way to do a right mix of telling people about world-class scholars and what we do. I mean, for example, you were just talking about the services we provide, and we need to reference. Here's a 2-minute video that'll tell you what you need to know. I mean, and then on the other hand, we want to make this thing interesting with sort of thought leadership, people who are doing interesting things, and that's sort of um, I think going to be important to our success of this podcast is finding a way to strike that balance between telling people who we are and what we're doing, because that's obviously key, but also making it really interesting for teachers who want to know what other people in the world are doing, what other people are experiencing, and that's going to be an interesting challenge, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, one of my favorite things we used to have years ago. I had another project. It was called Politics Online. It was innovative in the late 90s, early 2000s about technology and politics. And one of the great things about it is you could call up anybody and say, "Hi, would you come talk to us for about half hour about XYZ?" And most of the time, probably 80% of the people would say, "Yeah, I'm happy to do that." So I think that's a great opportunity that we need to take advantage of. And people who happen to stumble on the podcast, if you've got some ideas, if you'd like to be on the podcast, let us know. We'd love to feature you. We'd love to bring in other voices.
I feel, Phil, that yes, this is really the kickoff of our podcast series, and hopefully many educators will view it. But what is quite important is that we get educators to interview with us on a podcast on topics that they are most concerned about or eager to know. For example, today I addressed at the Dera International School middle school teachers and leaders, about 20 of them in the classroom, outlining the World Class Scholars Program. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't begin by talking about World Class Scholars Program. What I asked was that what is bothering you right now in terms of the change in the world of education? And by and large, the consensus was that, look, we hear about ChatGPT, AI, and the impact on us, because frankly, a lot of what is assumed to be performed as content dissemination and instruction and teaching is something that students can access on ChatGPT. So we certainly have an existential dilemma. And that was a very lively discussion. We didn't even talk about world-class scholars. And I said that, look, there are things that artificial intelligence, and I'm glad the technology is called artificial intelligence, because there is something called human intelligence. I want the world to know. The human intelligence elements of creativity, character, tolerance, empathy, kindness, collaboration, sustainability, climate change, global citizenship. Will ChatGPT or AI ever be able to solve those pressing problems of humanity? Or morality, ethics, justice?
Right.
All these are aspects that there is no substitute for teachers, because they do this every day. They may be teaching advanced calculus to high school graders, but at the same time, they are imparting skills around complex problem solving. They are embedding a certain supportive methodology where they are creating an environment where students feel safe to ask dumb questions with a certain spirit that, look, the whole community is there to support you in learning and advancing your learning. Who will teach those skills? It's the teachers.
Yeah.
They are irreplaceable. And that's where world-class scholars comes in. We don't really impose any requirements of what content you have to go through. We just say that, embed these very vital skills into your overall collaborative learning approach.
Well, we appreciate your hanging on and listening to this as long as you have. We want people to be involved. If you got ideas, suggestions, send them to us. People you think ought to be on the program, let us know. Um, you know, we've got social media channels that we run, Tanner runs, and we want to hear from you. I mean, the more people who we hear from, the more we can um, produce some things of real value to 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 further education and so on. And I one of my favorite speakers who will remain nameless for risk of being accused of being partisan. For a long time, he used to end all his speeches with, "Now let's go change the world," and that's sort of why we're here. And so help us change the world. So you'll hear from us again. Thank y'all. Thank you,
Thank you.
AJ.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Phil.
Tanner.
Thank you,
And
Tanner.
thank you for tuning in, folks.